In the present day, scientists in the Arctic uncover an old, frozen aircraft with someone frozen inside of it and a circular shield. In March 1942, during World War II, German Lieutenant General Johann Schmidt and his men steal a mysterious relic called the Tesseract, which possesses ungodly, untold powers, from the town of Tonsberg in German-occupied Norway. In New York City, Steve Rogers is rejected for US Army recruitment due to his various health and physical problems. While attending a Stark Expo exhibition by engineer Howard Stark and his best friend Sergeant James Bucky Barnes, Rogers attempts to enlist again. Overhearing Rogers' conversation with Barnes about representing his country in the war, Dr. Abraham Erskine allows Rogers to enlist. He is recruited into the Strategic Scientific Reserve as part of a super soldier experiment under Erskine, Colonel Chester Phillips, and British MI6 agent Peggy Carter. Phillips is unconvinced by Erskine's claims that Rogers is the right person for the procedure, but relents after seeing Rogers jump on a grenade to save his comrades, unaware that it is just a test and the grenade is not dangerous. The night before the treatment, Erskine reveals to Rogers that Schmidt stole his prototype formula and used it on himself, making him superhuman, but suffered permanent side effects. Schmidt and Dr. Arnim Zola harness the energies of the Tesseract, intending to use the power to fuel Zola's inventions and mount an offensive that will change the world. Schmidt discovers Erskine's location and sends an assassin, Heinz Kruger, disguised as State Department Representative Fred Clemson, to kill him. Erskine subjects Rogers to the super soldier treatment, injecting him with a special serum and dosing him with Vita rays. After Rogers emerges from the experiment taller and more muscular, Kruger kills Erskine and flees with a vial of the serum. Rogers pursues and captures Kruger, but the assassin avoids interrogation by taking a cyanide capsule and destroys the last vial. With Erskine dead and his super soldier formula lost, US Senator Brandt has Rogers tour the nation in a colourful costume as Captain America to promote war bonds, while scientists study his blood and attempt to reverse engineer the formula. In 1943, while on tour in Italy performing for active servicemen, Rogers learns that Barnes' unit was MIA in a battle against Schmidt's forces. Refusing to believe that Barnes is dead, Rogers has Carter and Stark fly him behind enemy lines to mount a solo rescue attempt. Rogers infiltrates the fortress of Schmidt's Hydra division, freeing Barnes and the other prisoners. Rogers confronts Schmidt, who removes a mask to reveal a red, skull-like visage that earned him the sobriquet the Red Skull. Schmidt escapes, and Rogers returns to base with the freed soldiers. Rogers recruits Barnes, Dum Dum Dugan, Gabe Jones, Jim Morita, James Montgomery Falsworth, and Jacques Dernier to attack other known Hydra bases. Stark outfits Rogers with advanced equipment, most notably a circular shield made of vibranium, a rare, nearly indestructible metal. Rogers and his team sabotage various Hydra operations while he and Carter begin to fall in love. In 1945, the team assaults a train carrying Zola. Rogers and Jones succeed in capturing Zola, but Barnes falls from the train to his apparent death. Using information extracted from Zola, the final Hydra stronghold is located, and Rogers leads an attack to stop Schmidt from using WMDs on major American cities. Rogers climbs aboard Schmidt's super bomber, the Valkyrie, as it takes off. During the subsequent fight, the Tesseract container is damaged. Schmidt physically handles the Tesseract, causing him to be sucked through a portal into space. The Tesseract burns through the plane and is lost in the ocean. Seeing no way to land the plane without the risk of detonating its weapons, Rogers radios Carter and says goodbye to her before crashing in the Arctic. The war in Europe ends, and Stark later recovers the Tesseract from the ocean floor, but is unable to locate Rogers or the aircraft, presuming him dead. Rogers awakens in a 1940s-style hospital room. Hearing a radio broadcast of a baseball game that he attended in 1941, Rogers grows suspicious, flees outside, and finds himself in present-day Times Square, where S.H.I.E.L.D. director Nick Fury informs him that he has been asleep for nearly 70 years. In a post-credits scene, Fury approaches Rogers and proposes a mission with worldwide ramifications. 2 years after the Battle of New York, Steve Rogers works in Washington, D.C. for the espionage agency S.H.I.E.L.D. while adjusting to contemporary society. During a mission alongside Natasha Romanoff and S.H.I.E.L.D.'s counter-terrorism strike team, led by Agent Brock Rumlow, to free hostages aboard a S.H.I.E.L.D. vessel from pirates led by Georges Batroc, Rogers discovers Romanoff has another assignment: to extract data from the ship's computers. Returning to the Triskelion, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s headquarters, Rogers confronts director Nick Fury and is briefed about Project Insight, 3 helicarriers linked to spy satellites designed to eliminate threats preemptively. Unable to decrypt Romanoff's data, Fury becomes suspicious about Insight and asks senior S.H.I.E.L.D. official and Secretary of International Security Alexander Pierce to delay the project. On his way to rendezvous with Maria Hill, Fury is ambushed by assailants, led by an assassin called the Winter Soldier. Escaping to Rogers' apartment, Fury warns him that S.H.I.E.L.D. is compromised but is shot by the Winter Soldier before handing Rogers a flash drive containing the ship's data. Fury is pronounced dead during surgery, and Hill recovers the body. Pierce summons Rogers to the Triskelion. When Rogers withholds Fury's information, Pierce brands him a fugitive. Hunted by Strike, Rogers meets with Romanoff. Using the data, they discover a secret S.H.I.E.L.D. bunker in New Jersey, where they activate a supercomputer containing the preserved consciousness of Armin Zola. Zola reveals that after being captured by Rogers during World War II, he was recruited to S.H.I.E.L.D., where he secretly reformed Hydra within its ranks, sowing global chaos using the Winter Soldier as their primary assassin. The pair narrowly escapes death when a S.H.I.E.L.D. missile destroys the bunker, and they realise that Pierce is Hydra's leader within S.H.I.E.L.D. Rogers and Romanoff enlist the help of VA employee and former USAF pararescueman Sam Wilson, whom Rogers befriended, and acquire a powered Falcon wing pack used by Wilson while he was in the Air Force. They capture S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Jasper Sitwell, a Hydra mole, forcing him to divulge that Zola developed a data mining algorithm that can identify individuals becoming future threats to Hydra. The Insight helicarriers will sweep the globe using satellite guns to eliminate the threat. Sitwell is killed in an ambush by the Winter Soldier, whom Rogers recognises as Bucky Barnes, his longtime best friend previously thought dead. He had survived due to Zola's experimentation, and has been repeatedly brainwashed and cryogenically frozen to perform Hydra's missions. Hill manages to extract the trio to a safe house, where Fury, who had faked his death, plans to sabotage the helicarriers by replacing their controller chips. After the World Security Council members arrive for the helicarrier's launch, Rogers broadcasts Hydra's plot to everyone at the Triskelion. Romanoff, disguised as one of the council members, disarms Pierce. Fury arrives and forces Pierce to unlock S.H.I.E.L.D.'s database so Romanoff can leak classified information, exposing Hydra to the public. Following a struggle, Fury fatally shoots Pierce. Rogers and Wilson raid 2 helicarriers and replace the controller chips, but Barnes destroys Wilson's suit and fights Rogers on the 3rd. Rogers fends him off and replaces the final chip, allowing Hill to take control and have the vessels destroy each other. Rogers refuses to fight Barnes in an attempt to reach his friend, but as the ship collides with the Triskelion, Rogers falls into the Potomac River. Barnes rescues the unconscious Rogers before disappearing into the woods. With S.H.I.E.L.D. in disarray, Romanoff appears before a Senate subcommittee to defend her and Rogers' actions. Fury, under the cover of his apparent death, heads to Europe to pursue Hydra's remaining cells. Rogers and Wilson decide to find Barnes, while Rumlow, who was a Hydra agent, is hospitalized following the Triskellion's destruction. In a mid-credit scene, at a Hydra lab, Baron Wolfgang von Strucker and his scientists examine an energy-filled scepter and 2 test subjects, one with superhuman speed, the other with telekinetic powers. In a post-credit scene, Barnes visits his own memorial at the Smithsonian Institution. In 1991, the brainwashed super soldier, James "Bucky" Barnes, is dispatched from a Hydra base in Siberia to intercept an automobile carrying a case of super soldier serum. In the present day, approximately 1 year after Ultron is defeated by the Avengers in the nation of Sokovia, Steve Rogers, Natasha Romanoff, Sam Wilson, and Wanda Maximoff stop Bruck Rumlow from stealing a biological weapon from a lab in Lagos. Rumlow blows himself up, attempting to kill Rogers. Maximoff telekinetically diverts the explosion, accidentally destroying a nearby building and killing several Wakandan humanitarian workers in the process. Thaddeus Ross, the US Secretary of State, informs the Avengers that the United Nations is preparing to pass the Sokovia Accords, which will establish a UN panel to oversee and control the team. The Avengers are divided. Tony Stark supports oversight because of his role in Ultron's creation and Sokovia's devastation, while Rogers has more faith in his own judgment than that of politicians. Meanwhile, Helmut Zemo tracks down and kills Barnes' old Hydra handler, stealing a book containing the trigger words that activate Barnes' brainwashing. At a UN conference in Vienna, where the Accords are to be ratified, a bomb kills King T'Chaka of Wakanda. Security footage indicates the bomber is Barnes, whom T'Chaka's son, T'Challa, vows to kill. Informed by Sharon Carter of Barnes' whereabouts and the authorities' intentions to kill him, Rogers decides to bring in Barnes, his childhood friend and war comrade, himself. Rogers and Wilson track Barnes to Bucharest and attempt to protect him from T'Challa and the authorities, but all 4, including T'Challa, are apprehended by the Bucharest police and James Rhodes. Impersonating a psychiatrist sent to interview Barnes, Zemo recites the words to activate Barnes' brainwashing. He questions Barnes, then sends him on a rampage to cover his own escape. Rogers stops Barnes and sneaks him away. When Barnes regains his senses, he explains that Zemo is the real Vienna bomber and wanted the location of the Siberian Hydra base, where other brainwashed Winter soldiers are kept in cryogenic stasis. Unwilling to wait for authorization to apprehend Zemo, Rogers and Wilson go rogue and recruit Maximoff, Clint Barton, and Scott Lang to their cause. With Ross's permission, Stark assembles a team composed of Romanoff, T'Challa, Rhodes, Vision, and Peter Parker to capture the renegades. Stark's team intercepts Rogers' group at Leipzig-Halle Airport, where they fight until Romanoff allows Rogers and Barnes to escape. As Rogers and Barnes are escaping, Rhodes is inadvertently shot down by Vision and becomes partially paralyzed. The rest of Rogers' team is captured and detained at the Raft prison, and Romanoff goes into exile. Stark discovers evidence that Barnes was framed by Zemo and convinces Wilson to give him Rogers' destination. Without informing Ross, Stark goes to the Siberian Hydra facility and strikes a truce with Rogers and Barnes, unaware that they were secretly followed by T'Challa. They find that the other super soldiers have been killed by Zemo, who then shows them footage that reveals that the automobile Barnes had intercepted in 1991 contained Stark's parents, whom Barnes subsequently killed. Enraged that Rogers kept this from him, Stark turns on them both, leading to an intense fight, in which Stark destroys Barnes' robotic arm, and Rogers disables Stark's armor. Rogers departs with Barnes, leaving his shield behind. Satisfied that he has avenged his family's deaths in Sokovia from the Avengers' actions by successfully fracturing them, Zemo attempts to end it all, but he is stopped by T'Challa and taken to the authorities. In the aftermath, Stark provides Rhodes with exoskeletal leg braces that allow him to walk again, while Rogers breaks his allies out of the raft. In a mid-credits scene, Barnes, granted asylum in Wakanda, chooses to return to cryogenic sleep until a cure for his brainwashing is found. In a post-credits scene, Parker explores the features of the web shooters built for him by Stark.